Good morning, everybody. We are live with Dr. Victorious Scerbo from the Seeds of Transformation and Healing Center in Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. White, snowy Massachusetts today.
I
But just a little bit. We only got a
got a
little.
little snowfall behind us.
Go right at home.
I may have to turn that off when we start sharing screens and stuff. Um, I'm just going to gibby gab here for a minute while people are coming in and getting their notifications we've gone live. um, so it was so much fun having you on Petty Boots last night. Having you back, we had you on New Year's Eve. Um, Definitely, if you guys have not checked out Victoria's channel, please do go over and check out her channel. She does astrology, tarot, numerology, and Kabbalah, Tree of Life, which is fascinating to me. A lot of great videos.
Yeah, I've been doing it a long time. Long time. Yeah. A lot of videos on that channel.
And classes coming up.
For me,
Yeah.
yes. I'm going to be doing a beginner's astrology class and an introduction to the Kabbalah. Um, Most likely to start in February. I'm thinking the beginning of February. I was thinking it would be good to do it in the new year because February we have the year of the wood dragon, which is about growth and manifestation, and it's going to be a very powerful year for that, I think. But of course, you have to decide what you want to manifest. Otherwise, if you don't make a direct decision, I think with this and a direct intention, there are a lot of things that can manifest that you're not expecting.
But do you do Chinese astrology too?
I don't. I just
I,
I would love to, but there's only so much time in the day, and maybe just so much space in my head. I don't know, but I could try to.
it's interesting. When I was in my 20s, I had moved to New York, and a good friend of mine took me to see a Chinese astrologer that had an office in New York and one in Hong Kong. And he would, he was like, living in two places. And we went to see him, and he did my chart, and he did hers first, and he wrote down her date of birth and everything, and goes in the back, does some calculations, comes back and talks about it. And it took him like 10 minutes, 15 minutes maybe to do the calculations on her. And then it was my turn. He goes in the back, and he's gone, and he's gone, and he's gone. And he finally comes back, like, I don't know, it was almost 30, 45 minutes later. He goes, "Your chart is very special. I had to use a different formula for your chart."
Wow.
And I was like, okay.
I'm special.
They're like, he couldn't use the basic formula. I was like, wow, I don't know what determined that, but he was so accurate on so many things.
Well, I know you're a metal ox because I'm a metal ox.
Yeah,
That I know.
yeah. And it's interesting because I love metal, like wrought iron candle holders and stuff. I'm drawn to metal. I love metal objects.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's all kinds of I've done a little bit of that looking at that in feng shui because there are
Mhm.
ways that you can work with you have certain stars associated with the year you were born and all of this stuff. So it's I know wood is very heavy in my chart, I think, anyway, even though I'm a metal ox. Although I think metal cuts down wood, so I don't know how that's going to work. I think it has to be in the right one has to go before the other or something. I don't know. So hopefully I have it in the right order. Otherwise,
Oh, we've got Ona's tarot in the chat. Hey, Ona.
hi Ona.
Um, if you're interested in Dr. Vicky's astrology course, email her at drvickyscerbo@gmail.com, correct?
It's Vicky Scerbo at
Oh, Vicky
gmail.com. No doctor. VICKISCER.
at gmail.com.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
putting
and
it in the
I
chat.
got a whole bunch of people from last night that said that they were interested, and I will be getting back to you probably within the next day or so to
And
those people who did write me.
I think you and I probably started our channels around the same time, and I enjoyed watching you because I'm a novice when it comes to astrology. So I enjoyed watching you because you put things in layman's terms in a way that I could understand. But before we start getting into uh, our conversation, I just wanted to share one thing because I've got a seminar coming up to clarify some things. This is my website, jenlintarot.com. If you're interested in scheduling a reading, oh, let me get on the right tab. Where'd it go? You can click on the reading tab. If you're interested, and you just scroll down and wait for things to load and decide if you want a phone or Skype reading. If you're interested in registering and booking the seminar in Portland, Oregon in June, there's 2 dates. And if you scroll down, it takes this part a little bit to load. Decide, if you want to go to the first session or the second session, and just click on it, and it'll take you to the page where you can fill out the form and pay for it. There's further down, once it sells out, you can put yourself on the waiting list, but there's no need to put yourself on the waiting list right now. As you can see, there's still spaces open under capacity. So don't worry about putting yourself on the wait list until it sells out. Okay, let me remove this out. Oh, where should we start? We've got
Well,
so many things going on this year, right?
well, yes, it's first of all, as I said last night when we were doing Petty Boots, this year is an 8 year, which is about reaping what you've sown. And these sort of they're called universal year vibrations. They start at 1, of course, they end at 9, and then they restart. And we started this particular cycle back in January of 2017. That was actually a 10-1 year, which is, as we know, the Wheel of Fortune. And boy, did we! I mean, we went from Barack Obama, right, and then we went to Trump. So that was quite a shift and a change, right? And so now we're
And
at this 8 vibration. Go ahead.
I love
Yeah.
that, like the vibration, you can match it up to a tarot card, which is
Yes.
fascinating to me.
Right.
So when she's when you're talking about an 8 year, which card would that be? The Eight of Pentacles or
It would be the Strength card.
oh, Strength card? Okay,
Strength card. In some decks, they switch it, but I use the 8 as the Strength card and the 11 as the Justice card.
yeah. So when she was talking about Wheel of Fortune, it would be this card. Strength card, of course, will probably be the last card I get to.
Always. It's always. Or it was the second card and you missed it. Like that's what happened.
Yeah, can never find it. Yeah, I must have missed it. Oh, yep, second card. I
Second
missed
card.
it.
Boy, am I psychic or what?
You're psychic.
Um,
And I'm using the Rider-Waite, so it is the number 8 on it.
yeah, yeah. And energetically, when you apply that to the tree of life, it's located in the throat chakra. And so the throat chakra is where we co-create with spirit. And so this is a very, very powerful. I mean, there's also, as you sow, so shall you reap. So if you've sown some fallow seeds, you're going to be reaping the rewards of that. But if you planted good seeds and you nurtured them, and this is the year that you actually will gather the crop. And then the 9 years when we separate the wheat from the chaff, and then we start a new year again. And that's a really important time because the new year is going to happen 2026. And in 2026, Saturn and Neptune conjunct at the first degree of Aries. And so
Oh,
we'll
wow.
be creating a whole new world. But we have to get from where we are now to that point. So there's a lot in between that's happening. Um, so vibrationally, we're talking about the 8. Astrologically, of course, Pluto is about to move back into Aquarius. It was in Aquarius from the 23rd of March of 2023 till I think it was July 2nd. I think it moved back into Capricorn. It's been in Capricorn since then.
It's been going back and forth.
Yeah, well, yeah, when these planets move so slowly that it takes a number of years for them, in order for Pluto to completely go out of Capricorn and move into Aquarius, it's about a 3 year period of time. And anytime we're changing signs, it's like anything. Like if you move out of a home and you move into a new place, you don't really know. Like you're still sort of feeling your way through. So we're kind of feeling our way through. But I did notice that the first indictment of Trump occurred when Pluto went into Aquarius.
Interesting.
So and so Pluto goes into Aquarius on the 20th of January. So it's happening in I don't know, two weeks. I can't do math in my head. Numerologist that I am, I can't do math in my head. So that's going to be a big shift. And Aquarius is about raising all boats. You know, it's Capricorn is much more hierarchical, and you know the 1% of the 1% at the top, and everybody at the bottom. But that's shifting and that's changing, and Aquarius is going to be there for 20 years. So we have plenty of time to figure out how that's going to work out. Yeah.
Wow. So with Pluto moving into Aquarius, we were talking about this in the after show a little bit, that moving into out of the patriarchal society and more into a more equal or fair society, bringing in that feminine energy a little bit more,
Yep.
balancing that.
Balancing, yep.
Does Pluto stay in Aquarius most of this year, or is it going to shift back into Capricorn again?
It goes back into Capricorn one more time, and it's going to be sitting at the last degree of Capricorn from September 1st to November 20th, which is Joe Biden's birthday.
Oh, interesting.
And that Pluto in the last degree of Capricorn is going to be there at the election.
Interesting.
So it's and the symbol is executive power. It's like men in the back room deciding where the world's going to go. Like that's what, when you read the Sabian symbol for it, it's pretty. You're like, oh, So I just hope when these people are in the back room deciding our next step that there's a woman involved.
Yeah.
I'm happy to
At least
say,
with Biden, there is.
I know. Well, I think he's mostly surrounded by women. I think most of his staff is women.
What sign is Kamala?
She's a Libra. She's got a
Libra.
fascinating chart. She's got a Libra. She's got full moon, baby, with her moon in Aries. So people who have moon in Aries are not afraid to fight. AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, has and Jen Lin has a moon in Aries.
Moon in zero, like 1 degree or 0 degree Aries, barely in Aries, but yeah.
Wow. So when Saturn and Neptune move into Aries, it's going to be right. It's going to be right on your moon. Yeah. Yeah.
And my Mercury's in Aries, so I'm not afraid to speak my mind either. It's like no filter.
Yeah, I married a man who's in Aries with a Mercury in Aries, and yes, in fact, there are no filters. Sometimes I just like, and this I don't know if this is you, but sometimes he'll say stuff that you think inside, like somebody's talking and you're like, oh Jesus, when is this person gonna like wake up? And he'll just come out and say, when are you gonna wake up? And you're like,
we'll say what everybody else is thinking.
Yeah,
it's really funny. Johnny always laughs at me from Tara's Apprentice, because I have this thing. I've learned through the years. I've learned more patience and everything. That's hard for an Aries. That's a challenge. But I have this thing where if I say look, I'm starting to, like, in my head, getting impatient again. If I say look, something's going to come out of my mouth right after I say look.
Well, where would we be without Aries? We would be nowhere. You're the first sign. You're the sign of beingness. So you guys start everything. You're the great starters of the zodiac.
Start it and also like to get the last word in. Does your husband do that? Like if you say something, does he have to like end it and say something else?
Um, Not so much, but usually when he says something, there's nothing else to be said after that. So not that he's like he's just it's just like I'll say to him, and you can probably appreciate this. I'll be like, I like, how do you know? He says, I know, and I say it. It's just like it's a no. He says it's not. It's a knowing, Vicky. It's a
Yeah.
knowing, and he doesn't have like I'm analytical. I'm
Hmm.
much more analytical. I'm much more what is that left brain than he is. You can actually see that in a chart how left brain and how right brain a person is. But he's like almost completely like intuitive right brain and
Gut feelings.
it can be somewhat annoying when you're married to that, but not for me. Like I've come to my feeling is you be you, I'll be me, and we'll get along just fine. You don't try to make me anything I'm not. I don't try to make you anything you're not. But that that came with time and I think wisdom and like what's the point? What's the point? You got to be yourself. And
I always say Aries make great mediums because we have no filter, so we get out of the way and we can get the messages like
yeah, it just
really
comes right in. Yeah,
easily.
it's like Ethel to Tilly.
Yeah,
Ethel to Tilly. Remember that? Yeah.
yeah. So, do we want to talk about the U.S. or the Trump in 2024?
Well, let's talk about the U.S. first because I'd be surprised if Trump made it to even to, to the election. Honestly, there's just so much in the way. Um, but as far as America, America, of course, has just we're still sort of processing. Um, America just had its Pluto return that only happens every 248 years, and we're about 248 years old. 200, yeah, we're now for
And we
240
stay in that Pluto return for a number of years too, right?
years, years. But
So
it's
it's not
more.
like we had our return and that's
No,
it.
we're
It's
still in
staying
it.
there for a little bit.
We're still in it. The difference now is it's past its exact point, and so we're sort of moving away from it. So the intensity is decreased as far as the push to transform to change. When in evolutionary astrology we consider Pluto the planet associated with the soul, and when Joe Biden says what does he say, we're remembering the soul of America, or we're whatever he says is exactly on point with that. And he has a fascinating chart. I mean, Trump's chart is fascinating in its way, but Biden's chart is even, I think, even a little bit more fascinating. He definitely has a chart of somebody who is a transitional figure from an old age to a new age. And I think once he wins, we're gonna actually be able to like start doing some things, um, because I think the Republicans aren't going to see a victory for a number of years.
I think Joe, what fascinates me with him is his ability to learn and grow and change. So, like some things that he might have voted down or voted for in the past, he's got a different opinion about now. Like he gets it, that oh wait, we got to let go of that. We need equality for women. We need equality for our immigrants coming in, and we need quality for our different races and ethnicities, our melting pot that is America.
Yeah. Yeah.
He has grown, and we all make mistakes, and I think that's the whole point of it is you make a mistake and you look at it and learn from it.
Right.
What can I learn from it, as opposed to Trump that has to point the finger at everybody else.
Right. Right. Well, Trump is a child. He's a child. He's just That
Stunted.
remember Baby Trump with the diaper and all that? That was definitely him, Baby Trump. The balloon, they had the balloon of Baby Trump. Yeah. And on a certain level, if he hadn't created so much terrible situations, or I mean, who's to know? Like, maybe that was his point. Maybe the point of Trump was to wake us up to how things really were, because he did really, in his way, expose the underside of things. But of course, he's the king of the underside of things. So he pointed it out to us, but we don't necessarily want him in charge because
It's amazing too, like with him, like I I I knew we still had racism and inequality in the US, but I didn't realize to the degree we had it. I mean, he just really um shone a light on all that hate and fear mongering and stuff. It's fascinating to see how many people are still caught in that.
yeah, and that's also part of the Pluto return for the United States, to because Pluto is the underside of things, and the United States has Pluto in Capricorn. And Capricorn, the underside of Capricorn is what we're seeing now: the abuse of power, all that patriarchal, BS, if I could say, so we're getting a view of it. But like anything, when I describe these things to people, sometimes in their chart, I'll say it's like having a boil on your butt. It's you sit on and it's like it's painful, and the closer it gets to the skin, the more painful it gets. But if you don't lance it and all the
Yeah,
gunk comes out and you really see what's in there, there's no chance in healing. So if we can kind of take all these experiences that we've had and see it as an opportunity for healing, that's when the Pluto return really, I think, makes for uh, a better.
brings it all to light.
Yeah, yeah. And then this year, because now we're still sort of in the Pluto return, not as intense as it was, but this year we're having a Chiron return. And Chiron is the archetype of the wounded healer. And in America, we have our Chiron in Aries. And so our wound revolves around aggression, guns, war, um, fear. We're very fearful in this country. But when you think about the country in general, is most people that came over to this country were escaping something else. And so we have a whole, like, and traumatized, whether it was by poverty or war or whatever, or bringing brought over
Or those that were enslaved went through a trauma to be brought into this country.
right, absolutely, right. And then what we did to the natives. I've been actually examining the Chiron return because it's our fifth Chiron return, because Chiron comes around every about 52 years, and we're about 250 years old. So that's five. So I did the math. That's five. So, and five is an important number because five is the number of freedom. And but it has to be freedom based on responsibility. And so we're having this Chiron return. It happens twice in, I think it's twice in 2024, and the last one in February of 2025. But it's very interesting. And we have an eclipse coming in April. That's a big one. It's a total solar eclipse. April, I don't know, 8th. I have, wait, hold on. Let me tell you. I should know. I should know. Okay, let me look here. Where's the eclipse? Here we go. It is April 8th, and it's going to go across the country. So this is one we're gonna see it, just like the one in 2017, the one that Trump looked up at. They're like, don't look up, and he's like, right? So, because he doesn't have to worry about that. He doesn't. There are no rules that he has to follow, especially from experts, because he's the only expert in the room. But so that one went from Oregon to South Carolina, I think. Interesting that we
Yeah,
can
because
really see
we
South
could see it
Carolina.
here in Illinois. Wasn't
Yeah,
quite as intense
you're
as
gonna
other,
see
but
it.
we saw.
You're gonna see it because this one crosses that one at the southern tip of Illinois. So that area of the country is where the X marks the spot.
Uh-huh.
And when it first went over to that first, the first one in 2017. Now, I don't know that I'm not an expert on eclipses, so I'm learning as I go as well. But they were talking about splitting the country in half, and look where we are. We're kind of split in half, and now this next one's coming, and it's actually going to split us in four, which to me sounds better than two, because four is a vibration of foundation, and we're going to have to figure out how we can all live together in the United States. At least we have to agree on something, and it'll be interesting to see how that sort of manifests itself, I think.
Yeah, and I don't. You're not talking about literally splitting the country. Like people seceding from the union. That won't happen because we have Democrats and Republicans in every single state, even if it's a red state, even if it's a blue state. You've got both. We would never be able to separate out
Yeah,
borders and stuff in this country. It's a figurative, like we are kind
yeah,
of in a civil war with opposing sides fighting each other, but it's
right,
more verbal than anything.
right, right. Yeah, it's a different. We do what we used to do physically, we now do virtually. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like it's more it's at a, in a way, a higher level, but even higher than the level that we're at is or we're the mental part is separates us. It's the heart that unites us, and we have to come to a heart space in this country. It's interesting that the cross is in the heartland,
yeah,
so I think it's going
interesting.
to be a very powerful thing. I'm an optimist, so, and I kind of have to live that way, because if I thought that it was only going to get worse, I don't think I'd get up in the morning. I'd be like, well, let's, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
Let's move to another country, but yeah,
yeah, let's
I mean,
let's
even
move on. Let's move on. Let's go to a different dimension. Back to the Pleiades. That's what I say.
it's interesting because even New Zealand, who had that wonderful prime minister, president
Yep,
for a while, the female that came in,
yep.
they
Lucinda.
now have a kind of right wing
Yep,
government thing going on too. The whole world is going through this. It's like, oh my God, even in a country like New Zealand that I don't think of as having that as much.
right, right. And I think that's, but in a way, that's sort of like figuring out which one do you want. It's like trying. It's like tasting everything at the restaurant to see what you want to eat. And it's interesting.
And
It's
the best way to do it is to share plates and have everybody order something different. We have
That's
to,
right.
in America, learn to share plates.
That's right. That's right.
Eat off everybody else's plate.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. I love eating like that. You
Uh,
go, everybody gets something a little different, and everybody gets to taste it. It's really cool. But I grew up in a large Italian family, so we ate each other's plates all the time.
you had to grab while you could.
Well, I was an only child, so I was lucky. I never had to grab for food. But my husband was one of like four kids, and he said, "You had to be fast." He said, "You had to know what you liked, and you had to be fast." Wasn't my
I was
experience.
the youngest of four kids, and it was like my brothers. They're both over 6 feet tall now, but I mean, they growing boys or whatever. They could eat everybody under the table.
Did they at least give you a little? Like, did they share? Were they good like that?
No, typical men, all about themselves, and what can I get?
Well, thank goodness you were in Aries. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Good thing you
I
weren't
was
a
kind of
little
in my own
feisty.
little world most of the time because I'm very different from the traditional family.
Yeah.
My two brothers, one of them looked like a lumberjack, very traditional. The other one looked like Ralph Lauren preppy. My sister looked very Laura Ashley conservative, and then there was me with a little mohawk
I
haircut
was
and
gonna say
cut,
the
ripped
punk
up
rocker, right?
leggings.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
a
can see
leopard
it.
print mini skirt. And my brother would look at the pictures of us together and say, "Where did you come from?"
The Pleiades, probably. Different planet. Different planet. I find a lot of people who, at least the people that I interact with, clients and the like, are outsiders. We're all kind of outsiders, and it's kind of wounding to be an outsider. But I say to them now, aren't you glad you're not on the inside? Because those people are going, at least we have an inkling of what it's like to be on the outside looking in. I think it's healthier in ways because society itself can be so unhealthy in
I
those
think
sort of
it's easier
conditions.
for us to be aware of what we need to heal either in ourselves or in our communities when you can look from the outside in. I find those that are able to do that can release a lot more trauma because they can look at it objectively and heal it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Because if
So,
everything's great, what do you like? There's nothing wrong here, right?
yeah. If everything's great, move to Mar-a-Lago.
Oh
See.
God. Oh my God. I just, the thought, just the thought itself, being in that energy is just,
The New Year's Eve party, the photos were so just screaming patriarchal society. The women with their boobs all hanging out, and all these older men, like tons of older men, and the women all trying to look younger than they were, and all the plastic surgery. I mean, oh my God.
yeah. It's kind of, it's all surface stuff, right? It's all
Yeah, it's
surface.
all image.
It's not what's on the inside, but it's what it looks like on the outside. And that's a very, we mostly live externally. Society lives in that way. Well, what's this person going to think? What's that person going to think? When you're sort of an outsider, you don't care what anybody thinks. You're just being yourself, and that can be dangerous. That could be quite dangerous. So you have to be smart too.
Yeah.
You have to have some street cred, some street smarts for that. Otherwise they'll eat you up and put you in a mental hospital, which is what they used to do in the old days. I mean,
Yeah.
they still kind of do it, but it's not the same.
So
Now they just
you want
drug it up.
you want me to share your chart that we have down below?
um yeah, which chart yeah, sure, yeah, yeah, I don't even know which one it is. Solar, oh, here's the eclipse. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So, oh, and I have to go actually on it. Okay. So here we have the eclipse. Oh, let's see. Can you, I'm pointing stuff out. You can't see that, right?
You have to point on the tab the chart's on.
Okay.
Vicky's new to StreamYard, guys, so she's learning how, when we share
Yes.
screens, how to do
Thank,
it. So,
thank you. Thank you for being, very, uh, considerate of me, of my inability to figure out StreamYard and do math in my head. So this is the eclipse. Now this isn't for Wareham, so but it doesn't look that much different for Washington D.C. Like if you really wanted to know about this eclipse for the United States, you'd look at the Washington D.C. as a place where the eclipse happens. But we have the sun and the moon at 20 degrees of Aries, and we also have Chiron there. You see, Chiron and Aries is the wound associated with, guns, war, all of that. Interestingly enough, it's in the ninth house. I think it's in the ninth house if we're in Washington D.C. as well. Um, and there's something else happening this year that's very, very important, and that's Uranus and Jupiter making a conjunction to each other. This happens every 13, 14 years.
mhm.
And Jupiter and Uranus are both energies of expansion. Jupiter is associated with expanding out into the world and looking at the big picture, how other people live. Jupiter is very, it's also associated with the Supreme Court. So that's also going to be something sort of in the crosshairs, I think, this year. But
Yeah.
the conjunction is happening It's happening after the eclipse, but not far after the eclipse, and it's happening at 22 degrees of Taurus. So if you have anything at 22 degrees of Taurus, that this conjunction, and Uranus is the awakening. So this is like a mass awakening. Now it is in the sign of Taurus, so the mass awakening can be connected to some sort of earth event, which of course we're seeing right now. I was watching a thing on Nova, I think, about how fast things are melting in the Arctic, and there's um, and it's sucking because there's no ice, it's not reflecting, and the water's getting hotter, and all this other stuff. So who knows? I mean, things could happen very quickly, even though we're talking about like thousands of years that something was one way. Um, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but that's a possibility as well.
The
We
one
also
thing
go ahead.
the one thing with astrology that I have like no knowledge on are the houses. What is the ninth house that the eclipse is happening in?
The ninth house is justice. It's also foreign places, so it may have something to do. Hopefully, it doesn't have to do with us getting involved more in the Israel conflict there. Hopefully we can stay out of it. I really do wish Joe Biden would say something about ceasefire, because I think it would go a long way. I think it would benefit him. I think it would benefit the people in Gaza, and I just think it would benefit the world, because we don't really kind of need that. The interesting thing about that whole thing, though, is like the age that now I don't know that much about the Jewish traditions or the Arab traditions, but I believe the Arabs came from one brother and the Jews came from another brother. I think the Jews came from Abraham, and the Arabs consider them coming from the brother. And it's so very interesting, like that whole Cain and Abel, Romulus and Remus, like all this like two brother thing that goes on. But that was during the age of Aries. And it's interesting that we have this eclipse and we have Chiron there, and the age of Aries is coming up again. So, and then there's also something in the chart that's not here, and that's the one of the planets that was most recently found uh, is a planet called Eris, and she was the sister of Aries, and she was kind of she started the Trojan War because she wasn't invited to a wedding, and so she utilized. So what Eris did is they said, well, she can't come to the wedding because she's a troublemaker. So she got mad and she took a golden apple from where the golden apples grew, I guess, and she etched on the apple to the fairest, and she rolled it into the party at the feet of Athena, Hera, and Aphrodite, and Paris, who was the Prince of Troy, was it? I think he was the Prince of Troy. And each one of the goddesses promised him something if they chose her. And Aphrodite said, "You can have the most beautiful woman in the world. You can have Helen." Oh, he wasn't from Troy. Well, I don't know where he was from. Anyway, he picked Aphrodite for love, right? So he picked love or lust, who knows? He was a young guy. And that started the Trojan War. So she's kind of a troublemaker and an outsider. And right now she's at 24 degrees. She's right here on this Mercury retrograde here, at the time of the eclipse. So we have all of this energy of wounding and the rising of the feminine, and of course the earth. So we're in for quite a year, and it's easy enough, I think. And I'm just gonna stop sharing. Is that okay?
Uh-huh.
Did I do a bad thing? No.
No, you're
Okay, good. It sounds kind of dire, but it's also Aries is about new beginnings, and so this is a real opportunity for us to do it in the way that we want to do it. Aries is all about intention. Aries intention is to be, and we need to be. We need to be who we are, warts and all. I mean, when nobody's perfect, and that's perfect because God isn't perfect either. Something else we're learning. We're all evolving together. And the more that we can sort of be in our that the more we can be our best selves, the better the world becomes. And I think Aries is teaches that. And it's a fight, as you know. You're not always given the opportunity to be the best person you are. You kind of have to fight for it. And I think we all have to fight in not in like fighting against another person, but maybe just fighting against ourselves to believe that we can be the best. Because there's a lot of conditioning that we've had to let go of. And a lot of that happens with Pluto and Capricorn, because Capricorn is about conditioning, and it is about like fitting into a mold. And once Pluto goes into Aquarius, there'll be another set of problems when Pluto goes into Aquarius. So it's not like suddenly butterflies and unicorns, but at least there'll be more of an even playing field, hopefully, and hopefully we can evolve through that.
It's interesting. I was looking up when is Easter and when is Passover this year, and that eclipse is falling right in between. Easter is March 31st and Passover is April 22nd. So that eclipse is happening right in between two major holidays.
Yeah, yeah, and of course that time of the year is about rebirth, so we can't forget that either, right? So this is really quite an opportunity, um, for a rebirth, and we need to kind of move into this knowing that. I think most of us know what we don't want at this point, which I think is, the battle, right? The battle is, what don't you want in your. I had a teacher many years ago say, you don't know what love is until you know what love isn't, because you think you know what love is, and then you find out, well, that's not quite right. That's
Yeah,
not
that doesn't
working out.
resonate.
Yeah, yeah. So and that's part of I think the acceptance of another person for who they are, and an acceptance for yourself,
Well,
which I
it's
find
kind
is.
of like, you get in a new relationship, and everything's always, rose tinted glasses, right? And then all of a
Oh yeah.
sudden, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, yeah. I think I have those glasses in my desk drawer somewhere. I still have those. Um, of course, I was kind of born with those anyway, because my moon's in Pisces. If anybody has Pisces, they know all about the rose-colored glasses. Um, yeah, so I don't know. I think that it's just an exciting time to be alive. Honestly, I'm real excited about this year. I think it's going to be a real watershed. It's going to be hard, but I think on the end, when we get to the end of it, we're going to be like, oh, right, and then the
It-
next thing.
it's interesting, like we were talking about this a little bit in the after show last night. I feel honored to have come into this lifetime as a woman at this time where we're fighting for equality and fighting for our rights. And as an Aries, yeah, I can be right out there with that. But it's like, after the suffragettes of the turn of the century, we kind of, we never got the women's rights thing.
ERA.
Yeah, we never got it ratified, and here we are. We have enough states now that have ratified it, but they still haven't ratified it federally.
Right.
And they missed the deadline with a couple of states. So I don't know. It's an interesting time, I think, to be a woman, and to be out there and to teach people how to be more nurturing, more caring, more thoughtful about how we're treating other people in society,
Right. Right. And I and
and
I
bring that
think that
feminine energy.
once we have a woman president, we're going to really start to roll in that direction. And I think that's coming soon. So yeah. And I was listening to Marianne on Revealing Light, and we had done something together a number of years ago, maybe 2 years ago. We were asking about Russia, and it came up that there was a woman in Russia, and we didn't know who it could be. But I think that's another place where
A
the
woman will rise.
woman is going to rise up. Yeah, and that's what we need. We need more women in positions of power, because And these are not going to be women who try to be men. These are women who are going to be women because the feminine is rising. It's been happening now, um, probably since 2000 and I think it was 2011. There's a star called Regulus that had been in 29 degrees of Leo, which is Trump's ascendant, by the way. And it had been in that for, I don't know, 26,000 years. And in 2011, it moved into Virgo. And Virgo is an earth sign, and Virgo is feminine. Fire is masculine, but earth is feminine. And it started then. And
Wow.
it's just, and of course, it's been going on before that as well. You know, women have been, speaking up since the suffragettes, since not abolition, yeah, abolitionists. A lot of them are women, and also
Roe v. Wade.
when we became a dry in the 20s. What was that?
Oh, prohibition.
Prohibition. That was started by women because they were tired of getting beat up by their drunk husbands. So take a stand, but then
We
as
can take
soon as,
it to an extreme if we're not careful.
well, I don't think women would do that. I really don't think they would. I mean, there are certain people who will take everything to an extreme, but I think we've been on the other side of the extreme. We're not the conquerors in a way. We're the let's create community here. We bring things together, whereas men tend to separate things out, which is part of how we evolve as well. We have to separate things out. We have to see things, away from each other, but then we have to come back together. And it's almost like breathing. I think that's what's happening now. And I have a lot of optimism for the future. There are
you
a
know, it,
lot of really good people out there who could lead this country very, very easily, I think.
it's interesting. We like to think, oh, the wealthy, they've got it so easy and everything. And then you have someone like Ivana Trump who comes out with a book and talks about having been raped in her marriage. You think about, oh, that just happens, in more normal families and stuff. And it's like, no, it's prevalent everywhere in
Everywhere, it
every
doesn't matter.
level of society. It doesn't matter. It's interesting. I think, people like that come along and kind of shine a light on it, and, was the first person to shine a light on Trump, really,
Right, right.
in his issue with women.
And now she's on the what, the 18th hole. Where is she now?
First hold, but in the
Oh,
weeds.
in the weeds.
Uh,
Oh, poor Ivana.
so
The indignity.
Can we look at Trump's chart and look at his trial with Jack Smith in D.C., which to me is one of the most significant ones going on. Starts March 4th unless it gets delayed by the Supreme Court. Can we look at his chart and what's going on in March, and then
Yeah.
maybe what's going on in April? Because Jack Smith's got so much evidence. He's called it out in the indictments and everything he's filed since then. I My gut feeling is this trial's going to go pretty quick. Like, we'll probably see a decision in like April or May. So I think it'd be kind of interesting to see what's going on in his chart during that time.
Okay.
And then you have the eclipse in there. So how
Yes.
is it going to impact Trump?
Yes. Yeah. I'm just setting those charts up right now. Let me do that. Um, and here. Okay. So now I'm learning StreamYard, guys. So give me some. All right. I want to present, uh, share screen.
Pick the tab you want to share.
Yeah. Okay. Uh,
Okay, got
all
it.
right. Yeah. So this is Trump's chart in the middle here. And this is March 4th, 2024. I just gave a noon chart for Washington, D.C. And of course, it may not exactly start on this day because I think things are a little bit delayed. But
Yeah.
then, of course, it could be delayed until we have the eclipse, right? Which may not be good for him either. But as far as what's going on, so uh,
Yeah. His
first
natal chart's in the center.
in the center here. So this is Trump
Okay.
here. He's got a 30-degree Leo ascendant. Here's his Mars in Leo. Here's his Pluto in Leo. He has Venus and Saturn conjunct in Cancer. This is what makes him so fearful. He has Mercury in Cancer, and it's square Neptune. It's the only aspect he has to Mercury, and it's generally indicative of either somebody who inspires or somebody who lies. And I think he probably does a little bit of both, honestly. Barack Obama had the square in his chart as well, but he didn't lie. He spent the time more inspiring, although maybe he was a little bit too idealistic for his own good in ways. Um, what's interesting is the south node of the moon, which everybody has a south node in their chart. Donald Trump happens to have a south node in Sagittarius, conjunct his moon. This is somebody who hasn't emotionally evolved or emotionally grown. He does his emotional growing in this lifetime. So far, not so good. But when you have a moon in Sag and the south node in Sag, this is the know-it-all. This is the person who thinks they're right all the time. So the south node is about the past. So we also have a south node in the sky now with here's the north node in Aries and the south node in Libra. But the south node is going over his Jupiter. The nodes move backwards. So it was over his Jupiter at 17 here, and we have it now on his Chiron. His Chiron is his wound when it comes to relating. Okay. And this is also, Jupiter has been his luckiest planet. He has a stationary Jupiter in his chart, which makes him very lucky. It also is trine to the planet of chaos, of which he has his sun in his north node conjunct. So he really is a chaos agent. He came in to be a chaos agent. But now with the south node going over this, and it's the second house of his resources, I think there's going to be exposure as to who, something around money at this time, maybe who paid him or who was supporting the coup kind of stuff with money. There we can see that. We also have Chiron almost exactly opposite his Jupiter. And whenever we have oppositions, we have awareness. So we can, there's an exposure of his relationships, okay, that I see here. Um, let's see what else is going on. He does have
And
Mars opposite.
by that time, like the E. Jean Carroll thing, which is going on in January, will have been over, and he's going to get
Yep.
fined again. He's going to have to pay up again. By that time, we should hear the verdict on the New York thing with Trump Org, and he's Letitia James is going after $370 million. So
Yeah,
he's coming into March wounded.
yeah. Definitely. I mean, well, he's definitely he's a wounded puppy. Let me see if I think I have the eclipse here too. So that you saw that change, right? Did you see this is different?
Oh yeah, everything up
Okay,
in the
all
top.
right. Yeah, everything at top. So this is the eclipse on the 8th. If the eclipse happens in his house of other people's money, um, I'm not exactly sure like how that's going to manifest, but we can see here that the south node is even a little bit closer to his Chiron. This all looks like exposure to me around issues of money and shared resources. Is it possible we hear about his connections to Russia and the money with that? Maybe. I think that might come later.
They are investigating some of his campaign finance and the grifting
Right. I
also,
mean,
so maybe we see another indictment.
there's
um,
like Jack Smith said, this is an ongoing investigation. Like this is an indictment, and we're still looking, and there's a lot to see because he mostly did everything in the public eye. Um, and I don't think he'll live long enough for us to realize all the things that happened while he was here. So But yeah, it doesn't look good for it doesn't look the eighth house is kind of where the bodies are buried. And
On the
there's a
first
lot of
hole.
bodies. There's yeah, at the first hole. Maybe not maybe that's why it was so heavy. Maybe there's a few other people in there or some maybe he talked to is it Menendez from
A
New
10-inch
Jersey?
binder or something.
I think there's a couple of gold bars in there too. So we'll see. Yeah, it's just crazy. And let me put one more chart up if I could. I want to put up the United States chart with this Chiron return because I think that's pretty significant. Let me just do that now. Um, oh,
Can you
eclipse.
do it on this same one, or is it a
I'm
different
gonna.
one?
I'm setting it up, and then it'll come up, and then I'll change to it. I think that's how you
Okay.
do it. I'm guessing. All right, I just have to find the United States now.
If it's on a different tab, I'll take this one out of the stream. Oh, there you go.
No, there it is.
You
See,
got it. Okay.
I did it, but I have to change it a little bit. Okay, so this is the United States chart. Um, and here you can see Pluto is just coming off the Pluto. So it's moving away. It's going to be on the south node. In a couple of years, it's going to be on the south node. And the other thing is that the Constitution of the United States, which is really when we developed into a country, it wasn't the Declaration of Independence that created the country, it was the Constitution. I think the Constitution's Pluto is like at 13 or 14 or something. So we're going to have a Pluto return of the Constitution. That's more likely when things are going to change. I think that's about 10 years out from now. But here's the Chiron of the United States at 20 degrees 8 minutes. And all of this energy is right on the Chiron in the fourth house. This can be wounds around the indigenous people. This can be wounds around taking people's freedom away, the right to be free, right? The slaves. And we also have the South Node going over Saturn in the 10th house. Saturn in the 10th house, the 10th house in a mundane chart like this is the house of the president. So the South Node going over that it could be the past coming back. It can also be abilities from the past coming back. So his ability to be a diplomat could come in handy with this energy. But it's happening the eclipse is happening in along the axis of the fourth and the 10th house, which is the parental axis. So it's like about taking responsibility for yourself. And I think, that it's probably a good idea at this point for the United States to really look at what they're doing and to take responsibility for that. Because
It's like
if we really want to lead the world, we're going to have to be better.
it may be someone like Biden to help parent us as a country
Yeah. Well,
a little bit.
he's got a fascinating chart. He's got a lot of planets in the 12th house, as does Putin. And it's really like they're like it's almost like they're the two like gladiators that are leaving the ring for a new set of I don't want to say combatants necessarily. Hopefully that's not the case, but
Can
um,
you look at Trump's chart around November 5th, election day in
yeah,
2024? See if there's anything
yeah,
interesting going on there.
yeah. Let me pull that up. I just
Like,
have to set up the chart for the election. So just give me a second here. Oops. Okay.
we should
And
do
that's
a
November.
separate video on Biden and talk about Biden and Kamala.
Yeah, I'm definitely up for that. Yeah, I love Kamala's. I think I'll put 8 p.m. when I think the polls pretty much
Close
close.
around 8 Eastern.
Yeah, Eastern. Okay, p.m. Washington. All right, here we go. Just want to make sure I have the right day. Yeah, it's an interesting. Okay, hold on. Ooh, do 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 do. Election and Trump. Okay. Um, swap. All right, I'm still working. All right, where are we here? Okay, present. Share screen, yes. And here we go. All right. Look, I'm getting good at this, Jen.
You got the hang of it now.
So now, yeah. So again, when we see the south node on something, it means the past is coming back. And here we have the south node right on his Neptune. Neptune in the second house is somebody who can lie about how much money they have. It's like an illusion. So that's happening. Um, he does have Venus on his moon, and he does have Jupiter on his north node. But Jupiter is considered lucky, and the north node is the direction of his destiny. But it seems like perhaps the direction of his destiny might be connected to his relationships um, that have been not seen before. Do you know what I mean? Like there's this
The hidden
the
relationships.
hidden relationships. Yeah, the hidden relationships. There's Pluto there at the 29, 30 degrees of Capricorn, moving out on Joe Biden's birthday. Um, but there are things here that in there's a lot of history here that's being exposed. This might be considered beneficial with the Venus on his south node and Jupiter on his north node. These are generally beneficial energies, but I think there's other stuff going on in his chart that are going to negate that. I don't really see him even making it this far to the election.
Yeah,
But
he's got, Fonnie Willis trial starts in August for the RICO charges and everything. And then 6 months after the eclipse is right before the election. So he might still be feeling the repercussions of the eclipse.
well, there's an eclipse in October because
Oh, man.
there's two eclipse seasons. And they're 6 months apart. So we're having the first eclipse at the end of March, and then we're having one at the beginning of April. So then we're going to have one at the end of September, and we're going to have one at the beginning of October. And those are going to be south node eclipses. So those will all be happening on the south node, and that is going to affect these planets here, his second house, his money. So yeah, and it's about letting go. The south node eclipses are about letting go. So I
Letting
think,
go of some properties, maybe
yeah,
selling them off.
I think he's gonna kind of lose it all here, and that might be why we have people are gonna feel bad for him because he's lost. Not that he doesn't deserve to lose it all, but people could feel bad and have some empathy for him. I think everybody, even the worst people, um, if you're at all sensitive or if you're at all empathic yourself, even the worst people, you'll feel bad that they have to do that. I don't know. That's the way I am. I just um
That they
yeah.
can't learn from their lessons, they can't learn from their life experiences. Uh, it's sad to see that in any form.
Yeah,
When someone is stuck and can't
nobody
grow.
wants this. Nobody wants. Well, I don't know anybody who wants to see anybody suffer. You know, it would just, it'd be so much easier if we just like relaxed and said, okay, let's stop this stupidity here. But I don't know. Yeah, he doesn't have good. He has Saturn here in his house of legal affairs. Saturn is the lord of karma. That's not pleasant. I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be good for him. So
Well, so we'll have to come back and do an episode on Biden and Kamala and see where Biden's chart is during the election.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We could definitely do that. I mean, whatever. I'm up for any of it because I love doing this stuff and I love talking astrology. So and then
It
I'll talk to anybody who's willing to listen.
Hey, Becca, we got Becca in the chat.
Hey, Becca. All
Becca
right.
and Braxy's probably watching too. She likes to watch TV and computers.
Oh, that's funny.
We will definitely have to come back and do some more deeper dives and revisit later in the year as things are happening and say, okay, here's where it was,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We can follow along, as it were.
and we were talking about too, so to kind of expose you guys in a shortened version what it's like to have Vicky interpret your chart for you. So she's actually going to work on my chart, and we'll try to do that with you guys too, so you can see a little bit of how a personal reading with you would go in a way.
Yeah, that would be great.
Abbreviated version of it. We won't do the full 90-minute version, right?
Yeah, no, 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 no. At least not. At least not on StreamYard. What are we doing?
StreamYard.
StreamYard.
So by the time we do another video together, you'll be like, "Wait, where was it? Where? What did I click on?"
Oh no, I'll remember. No, I don't know if I'll remember. I'll try. Well, you'll help me. It doesn't matter as long
Yeah,
as people
every
are.
time we do a fundraiser, I forget how to set up the donate button. It's done very differently through YouTube Studio. It takes me 5 or 10 minutes, and I'm like, "Oh my God, where is it? Where is it? I can't find the fundraiser."
Yeah, I have no idea what I'm doing most of the time when it comes to that stuff. So I'm just flying by the seat of my pants, and I think I need a new pair of pants at this point. So we'll see.
Well, thank you so much for walking us through some of these big events. We've got Pluto moving into Aquarius
Aquarius.
at the end January 20th. We got the big eclipse on April 8th.
Yeah.
So we'll have to definitely watch for those. I was trying to make some notes of things to watch for and
Yeah, and
watch the
and I
energy.
do I do talk about this stuff on my channel too. I've been doing in the news segments for a while now. I haven't done one recently because the end of the year is always a little fraught with getting stuff up for the new year. So I had to put some things aside, but I'm going to be doing some more in the news segments. People are interested in um, learning about a particular person, you can always email me with your suggestions or
I
go
can't
on my.
remember. Did you do Jack Smith
I
Kabbalah
did.
numerology?
Jack
Did you? I
Smith is
gotta go look at that.
fascinating. Yeah, he's fascinating. Yeah, I did Jack Smith. I do,
He's like
I did.
the epitome of poker face.
I did MTG. I did Marjorie Taylor Greene. I did oh, Gates. I did Gates,
Gates,
Matt Gates.
Matt Gates.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, and you do it from a perspective. These people are kind of a holes, right? But
Yeah.
they're people, and they have their reasons, and they have their weaknesses, and they have their strengths. And I think even if we dislike them, we should understand them because they are trying to tell us something about a situation, whether we like it or not, or whether we like them or not. So I think the more that you can understand people where they're at and maybe their motivations for things, I think it makes for a better world. Understanding goes a long way, and self-understanding is the first step of that, I think, which astrology really is very helpful for.
Um,
I stopped sharing if that's okay.
yeah. I was looking to see you did numerology Kabbalah Tree of Life on Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, she's
I think
fascinating.
looking in my astrology folder, what else? Uh, oh, way back in the day, you had Robert Muller's.
Oh, Robert Mueller, yeah, he was a double seven. That guy's not going to tell you nothing. He's like a seven soul and a seven outer personality. Those people keep everything secret. That Trump has
Yes.
that. Trump is a seven soul and a seven outer personality as well. He's a mystery, an enigma wrapped up in a mystery. Yeah.
Well, thank
Fascinating.
you so much for joining me today. This was a lot of fun, and I can't wait to try to do some more videos with you on this because like I said, I'm a novice, so I'll ask the questions
Yeah, no, I like
from a
that.
novice perspective.
I love that.
My biggest weakness, like I have a general understanding of the planets, and how they can influence a little bit. Like I knew Jupiter expands
Right.
things, but I don't I don't retain the houses
Right.
and what each house represents, which is why I should probably take your class.
It's a good class. It's a good primer. And even for people who know astrology, sometimes different
It's
teachers
a refresh.
yeah, teach different things. They have different ways of looking at it, and mostly I was self-taught, so I came up with a lot of this stuff on how my mind developed through it. And one of the things that I like to do is I like once you look through the lens of astrology, I hate to tell you, you will always look through the lens of astrology. You'll be looking at a news story and you'll be like, I bet you that person's an Aries. Like you just know this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And you go look and you're like, oh yeah, there it is. Like you start to think in those terms, and they're archetypical. So it's really sort of in a way bringing you to a better understanding of people, situations, and also how we're connected. Nothing happens in a vacuum. We're all interacting and trying to find some sort of homeostasis, which is
Well,
not the easiest
yeah,
thing.
it's good too to understand yourself, like how you learn, how you grow, what influences you, and just to stop and kind of think about it. Like for me, I'm one of those people. I learned by doing. So I learned by playing with StreamYard and figuring it out,
Right,
right? I
right.
At work, it's like, oh, let me mess with this for a minute. I'll figure it out. When I worked in the corporate world. Um, so when computers came along, I had not taken any computer classes in college back in the late 70s, early 80s. So I was on the job learning from people under me, that would
Right.
share
Right.
how Excel worked and different things. And if they got on the computer and said, "Okay, watch this," and they were clicking around, I'm like, I don't retain anything that way. Put me on
You
there and
have to
talk
do
me
it.
through
Right.
it. I have to
Right.
do it,
Yeah.
or
Well,
I
that's
don't retain
Aries.
how to do it.
Aries learns through experience. You
Yeah,
have to do it, right? Just do it is an Aries mantra, by the way.
yeah.
I don't know if Nike was Aries or not, but
We
their mantra, just do it, is definitely
we
Aries.
learn from experience, and sometimes we learn the hard way because a lot of times we don't take that time to think about it before we move into
Oh
action.
yeah, you don't think about it. No,
It's
no,
like jump
there's no
into it
thinking.
and then
There's no
think about it,
thinking.
and then, oh, what can I do to fix this?
Yeah, 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 yeah. You'll know the Aries kids because all their pictures, all their school pictures have a bump on their head. You'll have to check your school pictures back from the Wayback Machine. I mean, not that way back because we're the same age. So, oh dear.
Well, thank you so much for this today, and thank you all for joining us. Yeah, Becca, that's Vicky's kitty. What's his name? Charlie.
Charlie. Yes,
Charlie.
Charlie.
When she does her daily astrology, a lot of times he's walking outside with her. I love it when he's walking through your garden.
I know.
Which, by the way, your garden and your house, you have a climbing hydrangea over one of
Yep.
your doorways on your house.
Yep.
I went and bought one because of that.
Oh, yes.
And
When
they
they,
say like it takes 3 years for it to
yes.
start taking off. I'm going into my third year with it, so I'm like, oh god, this spring I got to start building trellis, or it's going to be climbing into the siding on the house.
Yeah, no, definitely. You definitely want a trellis, but the fragrance that comes from those flowers is like nothing I've ever smelled. And you only get it for like a week. And
Yeah,
it's just like I'll go out there and I'll stick my face in it. I'll be like, I wish I had smell-o-vision. I would love to be
I
able
had
to compare that.
hydrangeas and had seen them, but I'd never seen a climbing one like that. And I was like, oh my god, that's beautiful. What is that?
Yeah.
And figured it out and went and bought one because of you.
Yeah. You're welcome, climbing hydrangea people.
I'm going to train mine to go over. I have a small front porch, like you go up eight steps and there's a small front porch, and I'm going to train it to go up and over it.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, because it does stick on. So you want to have something that it can stick on that's
And
not
grab to.
necessarily attached to your house, because it will. It anytime you have plants like that against the house, it can seep moisture, and then that's never a
Yeah.
good thing. So
I don't want it messing up the siding on the house, so
right, right, right.
definitely got to put that up. So Vicky and I both do a lot of spring gardening videos, so that's awesome. But thank you all. We will see you. We'll try to come back, in a week or two or something, and do
Yeah.
another video together. But thank you all for joining us on a Monday morning and Sunday night. Petty Boots will be on Tarot's Apprentice channel, Johnny's channel. So join us Sunday night at 8 Eastern. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Have a great week.